All right, in this video, I want to take you through graphing a polar function using your calculator. And as we talk about this, I'm just going to start popping in pictures of a calculator, and I would urge you to follow along. We're going to graph, okay? So first thing, get your calculator and go to mode. Okay, hopefully you remember where mode is. It's right here. And once you're there, I have a TI-84 color, so you might have less options than I do. But no matter what, you're going to go down and you're going to change what's normally function. This, of course, is y equals x mode. You're going to change yourself to polar. Okay, once you do that, press the y equals button. All right, so now you see this. You don't see y equals anymore. Now you see r equals. Okay, so again, you've got some capabilities here to graph 6 different polar functions at once. And I would like to type one in. I'm going to type in, let's do like 3 plus 4 cosine theta. Now, theta is actually where your variable button is. It's where x used to be. And if you take a look at that button, it says x, t, theta, n. Those are all the variables for the various modes your calculator has. So that's how you're going to get the theta button. All right, so you can see I've put in the equation. Now the next thing I wanted to just point out, because it looks really different, is the window. If you go to the window, you now, instead of having x mins and x maxes, you also have this theta min, theta minimum, theta maximum, theta step. What this is it's saying, okay, it's going to start graphing your function. What angle do you want the first input, and where do you want it to stop? And you can, I hope, recognize my cursor is on there, but I went from 0 to 2 pi. And hopefully that will graph my whole shape. You can change this. You could change this to pi and just maybe see half the shape. Or you could change it to 4 pi and just draw the same shape twice, because it'll probably start repeating. This theta step, I would usually just leave. I really would urge you not to play with it a whole lot. If you move it up, if you changed it to like 1, what it will do is it will evaluate your function, our 3 plus 4 cosine theta, but only every 1 unit. It'll be like, what's 3 plus 4 cosine of 0? What's 3 plus 4 cosine of 1? What's 3 plus 4 cosine of 2? It will put those spots in the graph and then draw a straight line to those points. So you'll get a graph, but it will look very jerky. It will have like points in it instead of looking nice and rounded like a polar graph should. The other thing I would urge you not to do is make this smaller, because a lot of times students will think, well, if this adds accuracy, you know, if I go up to 1 or 2 or something like that, I get this weird looking graph. But then smaller must make it even more accurate because you're evaluating the function more. The problem is it actually does evaluate it. So I know I've had students before they hear my warning say, well, I'll put 0.00001. And that takes about 3 hours for your calculator to then graph the one graph. This is the default for the TI-84s. The 83s, I think, a little bit different. I would just leave it right at that. I wouldn't ever change it, okay? So now let's hit the graph button. All right, and here's our graph. And this is, you know, this is the way you're going to do most of your work with the calculator. You're not going to have to really graph things by hand. Most of the time the AP exam provides you a picture. Even it doesn't even make you graph it with your calculator. But this is a pretty slick way to do your graphing. One other thing that I'm just going to maybe mention here and maybe you want to play with. In the y equals portion of this, you can change this. You can arrow over and you can choose to change this. There's a little symbol in there. It's actually called ball with tail, and it looks like this. Looks like a little ball with a tail. What that does is that slows your graphing down. Because a lot of times, especially if you have an 84 and it's really quick, you know, you type this in and you hit graph and you just see this graph. Ball with tail slows the graphing down a little bit. So what'll happen is you'll actually see it trace like this. And that's important because it allows us to see if 0 to 2 pi traces the graph once. Does it trace the graph twice? Does it not even trace the whole graph? So I would urge you to do that just because it slows the graphing down. Okay, and play with that a little bit.